on 29b.
You sure?
Yes.
All right.
Okay. We are about 10 lines down
From the top?
from the top. Yep, we got some catching up to do. Let's see. Okay. Tanu Rabbanan, we learned. Liftos es benova la'alos laregel. Let's say he has sufficient funds to either be poda his son, redeem his son from the Kohen. He has the 5 coins, or he can take those 5 coins and use them to be ola regel to go up to the Beis Hamikdash on Pesach, Shavuos, or Sukkot. So, which one should take precedence? Podes beno ve'achach ola l'regel. So, according to the Tanakama, first you are podes beno. First he would redeem his son, and only afterwards, meaning only if he finds more money, would he then be ola regel. But being poda his son, redeeming his son takes precedence. Rabbi Yehudah disagrees. He says ola l'regel v'achach podes beno. Rabbi Yehudah says no. First he should be ola regel. First he should use those funds to go up to the Beis Hamikdash, and only afterwards should he then look for more funds to redeem his son. Why? So Rabbi Yehudah explains himself. Shazu mitzvah overes, v'zu mitzvah she'ena overes. Because the mitzvah of aliyah l'regel, right, is a mitzvah which is going to disappear. Right? It lasts for a week, and if he misses it, then he missed it. Whereas the mitzvah to redeem his son, that's a mitzvah that's ongoing. Right? He has the son's entire lifetime till he does it. Right? Until he does it, that the mitzvah applies. So better that he should fulfill the mitzvah, which is going to disappear, which is time bound, and fulfill that, and then wait for funds that will come in to redeem his son.
From the moment that he's aware that he has to redeem him.
No. The mitzvah of ola regel is time bound because he only has a week to do it. He has to go up. Let's say it's Pesach time, right? Okay. So he has to go up to the Beis Hamikdash, right? He can't do it next week. Okay. He's got to do it now, right? Because next week it's not Pesach anymore.
Okay.
Right. Okay. Whereas redeeming his son is ongoing.
I see. Okay.
Right. So if he doesn't have the funds this week, he'll do it next week. And if he doesn't have it next week, he'll do it the week after. Right. So there's no rush in that sense. Of course, the person should do a mitzvah as soon as he can, but in that sense, there's no rush, and therefore better to be ola regel rather than redeem his son. So says the Gemara, Bishlem ala Rabbi Yehudah kidduka amar taima. So Rabbi Yehudah explains himself. So we understand his logic. We understand his reasoning. Right? Ela Rabbanan matai ma'u. But according to the Rabbanan, what is the reason for their opinion that you should first redeem your son and then only then be ola regel? It would seem that Rabbi Yehudah has a good point. Right? So the Gemara answers the Amar Kra because the pasuk says, Kol b'chor banecha tifte, hadar le'yaro panei rekam. So the pasuk, which lists 2 mitzvahs together, it lists the mitzvah of being poda his son, of redeeming his firstborn son, and then it lists the mitzvah of being ola regel. And which one is first in the pasuk? Redeeming his son. So you see that the Torah gives precedence to redeeming his son over being ola regel, over going up to the Beis Hamikdash. Okay.
I was still stuck in the past when he was redeeming himself and his son.
Right.
Sorry, I'm not.
Okay, no, you're fine. Read the Tanu Rabbanan a little bit above halfway. Tanu Rabbanan minayin shem hayu lo chamisha banim mechamish nashim shechayev liftos kulan. So obviously in earlier times, a person was permitted to have more than one wife. So let's say he has 5 firstborn children from 5 different wives. Okay, so shechayev liftos kulan. How do we know that he's obligated to redeem all of them? Talmud lama kol b'chor banecha tifte. All, right? Torah says in addition, the Torah says all of them, all your firstborn children, you shall redeem. So that's teaching me even if you have multiple firstborn children, you have to redeem them. Says the Gemara Pshita. This is obvious. The Torah said a firstborn son, right? You have to redeem, and the Torah says that it's dependent on the first one out of the womb, meaning it's dependent on the mother. If it's a firstborn child to its mother, then you have to redeem it. So what difference would it make if he's the father of all 5, right? It's dependent on the mother, and of course he'd be obligated. So says the Gemara, Ma'ud detema nelef b'chor min nachala, ma'alahalan reishis ono afkan reishis ono kamash malan. The Gemara, I might have thought that perhaps we should learn out from b'chor lenachala, a firstborn son, when it comes to Yerusha, when it comes to inheritance. When it comes to inheritance, we don't go based on the mother, we go based on the father. Okay, meaning if he has 5 different wives, right, and he has firstborn children from each one, the one who gets the inheritance, the double portion of the Bechorah, the double portion of the firstborn, is the firstborn child, his firstborn child. Right. The others, even though they might be firstborn to their mother, they're not firstborn to him, and they have no claim to the double portion. The double portion only goes to his firstborn child. So I might have thought that perhaps the same halacha would extend to redemption of the firstborn as well. So it says the Gemara, therefore the Gemara has to teach me that no, when it comes to redemption of the firstborn son, then that's dependent on the mother. Whereas as in contrast to inheritance, which is dependent on the father. Okay. All right. The Gemara is going to continue now back on the Mishnah. The Mishnah said, "Lelamdo Torah." Now, one is obligated to teach their son Torah. So it says the Gemara, "Minalan." How do I know that the father is obligated to teach the son Torah? D'chsiv v'limadatem osamas b'nechem v'heichad lo agmerei avua mechayev ihu lemigman. So it's pretty obvious that the father has an obligation to teach Torah to his children. Okay? But the Gemara says further that if in a case where his father did not teach him any Torah, let's say the father did not teach Torah at all to the son, so is the son then patur? Is he then absolved from any obligation to learn Torah? Says the Gemara, no. That mechayev ihu lemigmar nafshi, he's obligated to teach himself. D'chsiv v'limadatem. It says you shall learn. It doesn't say you shall teach. It says you shall learn, which teaches me that the son has his own obligation to learn Torah. How do we know that the mother is not obligated to teach her son Torah? Because the Torah says the Torah says you shall teach, but it can also be read you shall learn, and therefore we say as follows: Kol shemitzuva lilmod Torah. Kol shemitzuva lilmod mitzvah lelamed. Mitzvah lelamed. Kol she'ena mitzvah lilmod ena mitzvah lelamed. Anyone who is obligated to study themselves, then they study themselves, then they're not obligated to teach. And a woman, since she's not obligated to study, then she's not obligated to teach either. Now the Gemara asks, how do you know that she's not obligated to study? How do you know that she's not obligated to study herself? You shall teach and you shall study. So it's a little bit of circular logic here, but the Gemara says that anyone who is obligated to be taught is obligated to study themselves. Anyone who's not obligated to be taught, right, meaning that others have no obligation to teach them, right, then they have no obligation to study for themselves. What is an example of someone who others have no obligation to teach them? A woman, right? Because the father is not obligated to teach his daughter Torah. Okay. How do we know that in fact the father is not obligated to teach the daughter Torah? You shall teach it to your sons. So to your sons teaches me that the obligation applies from father to son, but not from father to daughter. Okay. Tanu Rabbanan. The Gemara brings an interesting question. Who lilmod ubeno lilmod? Who kodem livno? So the Gemara says, let's say somebody needs to support the family. Okay, so now we have an option. Who should spend their time? Who should devote their time to studying Torah, and who should be the one to go out to work and support the family? So it's going to be either him or his son. Okay? So either he can learn or his son can learn, but not both of them. Which one has precedence? Okay, so the Gemara says that if it's only possible for one of them to learn, who kodem livno? He comes first, because the mitzvah that's his own obligation takes precedence over the mitzvah to teach others. Okay. Rabbi Yehudah says, however, in beno zoriz umemulach v'talmudam b'skayim biyado beno kodmo. If his son is a scholar, right, and his son is a very talented learner, he's a gifted child, and he's able to learn very well, and he recalls his learning, right, and he's clearly a better learner than the father. So then the son takes precedence over the father. Okay. And the Gemara gives an illustration of this. There was Rav Yaakov, who was the son of Rav Acha bar Yaakov. Shadrei avua lekameda Abaye. So his father sent him to learn Torah from Abaye, meaning, and the father then engaged in work and supported him while he was learning. Okay. Ki asa, when he returned, he saw, the father saw that the son had not really grasped his learning very well. Okay, so he had not been tremendously successful in his learning. Amarle, so he said to him, so this is Rav Acha, who's the father of Rav Yaakov. So Rav Acha said to Rav Yaakov, "Ano adifna minach. I am a stronger learner than you are. Tuv at de'ezel ana. So you stay back, and I'm going to go to yeshiva to learn." Okay. Shama Abaye de kahava asi. So Abaye heard that Rav Acha was arriving to learn, and at that time, havahum mazik be Rabbanan de Abaye. Okay. There was a demon that lived in the study hall of Abaye. Okay. Rashi says the study hall was outside the town, so it was secluded. It was isolated, and isolated buildings are where the demons take up residence, and therefore this was very dangerous. That it was so powerful that normally, as we learned in brachos, normally if two people go together into a building, they will not be harmed by a demon. The demon will only harm one person, right, by themselves. This demon was, and furthermore, a demon will only harm at night, not during the daytime. But this demon was so powerful that it would even harm even two people, and even during the daytime. That's how powerful it was. Amalahu leisiv leinish ushpiza, efshe de misrachish nisa, al basahu. Efshe de misrachish nisa. So so Abaye said, "Here's what we're going to do. Nobody should invite Rav Acha into their home, right? We're going to force him to sleep over in the Beis Medrash. We're going to force him to sleep in the Beis Medrash. The demon will come out, right? Will make itself known, and hopefully a miracle will occur, and Rav Acha will slay the demon." Okay? So all bas ba'hu be Rabbanan. So in fact, he came, and he had no choice. He slept in the Beis Medrash. Idmile kitanina de shiva reish vase. So the demon appeared, and it appeared like a serpent with 7 heads, and called kriya de kara nater chad reishe. Okay, and Rav Acha began to pray, and with every prayer, with every kneeling that he did, every time he knelt in prayer, then it chopped off 1 head from the demon until he had defeated it. So Amalahu lemachar, he said to them, tomorrow he was not so happy about this. Right, he said, "You put me in great danger, not for the fact that a miracle had occurred. So I'm glad that you guys were confident in my abilities, but next time, don't leave me alone with the demon." Right?
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, exactly. Thanks, but no thanks. Right?
The dragon slayer.
Yeah, exactly. Acha the dragon slayer. Right.
Hi.
Okay. Tana Rabbana. Lilmo Torah v'lisa isha. Yilmo Torah v'achar yisa isha. Okay, so let's say a person has a choice whether to go ahead and study Torah, right? And he can devote himself entirely to Torah study, or he can go out and get married. And once he goes out and gets married, then he's not going to be able to devote himself wholly to Torah study, right? He's going to have other obligations to support a family. So says the Gemara, Yilmo Torah v'achar yisa isha. He should first devote time to Torah study when he can be devoted without any distractions to Torah study, and only then should he go and then go ahead and get married. Right? The Gemara doesn't give an exact timeline for this, right? How much time should he spend studying Torah, and at what point should he go ahead and get married? But the Gemara is saying that he should spend some time at least learning Torah without interruption before he goes ahead and gets married. If he finds that he cannot live without a wife, right, meaning he's coming to sin, so then he should get married, and only then should he go ahead and study Torah, even though he'll be distracted with familial obligations. Nevertheless, that is better than trying to study Torah on his own. Amar Rabbi Yehudah Amar Shmuel, halacha nose isha v'achach yilmod Torah. So Rabbi Yehudah Amar Shmuel, Rabbi Yehudah said in the name of Shmuel, the halacha is that first the person should get married, and then he should devote himself to Torah study. Even though he'll have distraction. So Rav Yochanan said to him, "Is that really possible? Meaning, once he's married and he has familial obligations, he has a millstone around his neck, meaning he's obligated to support a family. Once he has that obligation, we can't really expect him to devote himself to Torah study, and therefore better that he should go ahead and study Torah rather than get married." Lo pligi. Says the Gemara, there's not really a machlokas. Halan v'halahu. Says the Gemara, one is referring to the Babylonian scholars, and one is referring to those in Eretz Yisrael, to those learning in the land of Israel. What's the difference? So the Babylonian scholars used to go ahead and travel to Eretz Yisrael to study Torah. Okay? So that means that even after he's married, he's then going to travel for a certain period, I guess months at a time, let's say, and be studying Torah in Eretz Yisrael. So even though he's married, he's not really going to have these distractions, right? Because he's going to be away from home. So therefore, better he should be married, right? And then go ahead and study Torah. Whereas those who are learning in Eretz Yisrael, so they're going home every night after they study Torah, right? They're going home to their family and they have their familial obligations, and therefore better that they should study Torah rather than get married, at least for a certain period of time. So the Adam Gadolhu. So Rav Chisda used to praise Rav Huna, was praising Rav Huna in front of Rav Hamnuna. The Adam Gadolhu, he said he's a great man. Okay. So Hamnuna then was intrigued, and he said, the next time Rav Huna comes before you, bring him to me. I want to meet him. Right? Ki asa chazid lo poris sudra. Amalei my time lo prisa sudra. Amalei de lo nesivna. So when Rav Huna arrived, Rav Hamnuna saw that he was not wearing the customary head covering that was worn by married men. Okay? So whatever exactly that means, but there was some head covering that was customary to be worn by married men. And he saw that he was not wearing it. So he said to him, "Why are you not wearing this head covering?" So he said, very simple, right? Amalei de lo nesivna, I'm not married. So Rav Hamnuna was very upset about this. He turned away from him. He refused to look him in the face. So he said to him, "See that I will not gaze upon your face. You should not come before me until you get married." Okay? Meaning he was very upset at the fact that he remained unmarried, that he remained single. Rav Huna l'taimei, and Rav Huna was following his opinion. The Amar ben Esrim shana v'lo nasa isha kol yama ba'avera. So Rav Huna said that once someone is 20 years old and he is not married, then he is spending all his days in sin. Says the Gemara, ba'avera salkadaitach. Do we say that he's actually spending his days sinning? Ala'ema kol yama b'hirur avera, that he has thoughts of sin. So even though he may not actually sin, but he has thoughts of sin, and therefore a person is obligated to get married. Amar Rava v'chein tana debei Rabbi Shmuel ad chav shana yoshev HaKadosh Baruch Hu mitzapeh la'adam masa yisa isha. Until 20 years old, HaKadosh Baruch Hu waits, and he waits to see when this person will get married. Kivan she'egia chaf v'lo nasa. But once the person has reached 20 years old and he has not gotten married, Omer tipach atzmosav. The HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, let his bones rot, meaning he maintains that this person is violating the Torah, meaning he was obligated to get married and he didn't. Amar Rav Chisda, Haida adifna mechavoi. Rav Chisda said this, that I am a bigger scholar and a better person than the rest of my colleagues. The nesivna b'shitza. I got married when I was 16. If you have a nesivna ba'arbeisar, and if I would have gotten married when I was 14, hava amina, I would have been able to say l'satan gira be'einecha. I would have been able to say to the Satan, to the Yetzer Hara, to the evil inclination, right, I'll poke you in the eye, meaning that he would have been able to mock the Yetzer Hara because he would have been protected from sin. Amalei Rava l'Rav Nosson bar Ami, adi yadcha al tzavori debrech mishitza v'ad esrim v'tarte v'amila mitam nesrei ad esrim v'arba. So he said to him, when your hand is still strong over your son, so then that is when you should ensure that he gets married. And what is that? from 16 until 20. Okay, so Rashi explains that younger than 16, then he's not really going to be able to accept rebuke. Right? He's too young. Right? He's not able to understand that which is being said to him. He's not able to internalize it, and therefore you can't have a real meaningful conversation with him. Okay, older than 20, then he is he's not going to listen anymore. Right? He's his own person. He's independent, and he's not going to take a rebuke from his father any longer. So, Ba'amrillah, some others say that no, it's from 18 until 24. Kitanoi, and this is following the opinion of the Mishnah. Chanoch lenar al pi darko. You should teach a son according to his stage in life. Okay, and what that means is that you have to wait for the appropriate stage in life in order to teach him. But otherwise, you can't expect that your words are going to be accepted and be internalized. Rabbi Yehudah v'Rabbi Nechemya chadama mishitzer v'ad esrim v'tartein chadama mitamnes v'ad esrim v'arba. So Rabbi Yehudah and Rabbi Nechemya, they said that that it's from 16 until 20 until 22, and the others said that it's from 18 until 24. Okay, so a difference of opinion exactly what age this window of opportunity is, but regardless, there's this window of opportunity that a person has to take advantage of. Okay. To what extent is a person obligated to teach his son Torah? Meaning, how much Torah is he obligated to teach him before he has fulfilled his obligation? Okay. Amar Yehudah Amar Shmuel, Kigon Zevulun ben Dan. The example of this would be Zevulun ben Dan. Rashi says he was a student that lived in their time. Right, we don't know anything about him. Shalimdo avi aviv mikra u'mishnah v'talmud halachos v'agados. That his grandfather taught him Torah, meaning Chamisha Chumshei Torah, the 5 books of the Torah, and Mishnah and Talmud and Halacha and Agada and Medrash. So he taught him all of these things. So therefore, the obligation is to teach his son all of the Torah. Right? Meaning this is it's all encompassing. Person is never really fulfills his obligation. Right? He has to continue teaching. Says the Gemara. Meisive limdo mikra ein malamdo mishnah va'amar rava mikra zu Torah. So the Gemara says that we have a brisa which says that once he teaches him Torah, he's not obligated to teach him Mishnah, meaning the extent of the obligation is only for Torah. Right? Once he teaches him Torah, he's not obligated to teach him Mishnah. And Rava says that when it says Torah, it's only referring to the 5 books of the Torah. It's not even referring to Nach, to Nevi'im, Ksuvim. So meaning the obligation to teach is limited to the 5 books of the Torah. Beyond that, the father is patur from his obligation. He's fulfilled his obligation. He's not required to teach him more than that. So that's a direct contradiction to what we just said, that you have to teach Mikra, Mishnah, right, Talmud, Halacha, Agada. So it says the Gemara, Zevulun ben Dan, v'lo Zevulun ben Dan. Now, what we mean to say is we're drawing a parallel to Zevulun ben Dan, but only regarding one thing, right? Not regarding other things. Kizvulun ben Dan shalimdo avi aviv. We're saying, like Zevulun ben Dan, that his grandfather taught him Torah. We're saying that the obligation falls back on the grandfather. We'll see more about that. V'lo Zevulun ben Dan, but not regarding everything about him. De'ilu hasam mikra mishnah v'talmud halachas v'agados. There he taught him everything. Iluhacha mikra levad, but the true obligation is only regarding mikra, only the 5 books of the Torah, but not beyond that. Says the Gemara, Vavi aviv mi mechayiv. Is a grandfather, in fact, obligated to teach his grandson Torah? V'hatanya v'limadatem osam es b'nechem v'lo b'nei b'nechem. Right. So says the Gemara. It says in the Torah, you shall teach it to your sons. Right. That would indicate that the obligation is only to a son, but not to a grandson. Okay. Says the Gemara, now if that's the case, so if that's the case, how do we interpret a different pasuk, which the pasuk says regarding the Maimad HaSinai, regarding us being at Sinai and receiving the Torah? The Torah says you shall give this over to to your children. You shall make it known to your children and to your grandchildren, right, and to all your descendants. So you see that there is an obligation on further descendants, even beyond a person's children. Says the Gemara, no, it's not creating an obligation. Rather, it's telling me, Lomer lecha, to teach me, shekala malamed is beno Torah, mala alav akosov, ki ilu limdo lo v'livno uleven beno ad sof kol hadoros. So what it means to say, is that one who teaches his son Torah, if he does so properly, it's as if he's teaching his grandson and further descendants as well until the end of all generations. Because if he teaches his son properly, his son will then embrace the Torah, and he will teach it to his sons, and his sons will teach it to their sons, right? And the Torah will continue, right? So it's not saying there's an obligation to directly teach the grandson Torah, but rather it's saying that if one teaches their son properly, it's as if they have taught him it's as if he has taught his grandchildren as well. So Huda Amar Ki Tana says, this is following the opinion of the Tana and the Brisa, the Tanya. V'limadatem osam es b'nechem, ein li ela b'nechem, b'nei v'nechem minayin. Talmud lomar v'hodatem levonecha v'levnei vonecha. So here, according to the opinion of the Brisa, meaning Rav Zvulun ben Dun's grandfather was following the opinion of the Tana and the Brisa, who said that there is an obligation on a grandfather to teach Torah. Okay. Im kain ma Talmud lomar b'nechem. If that's the case, then why does it say b'nechem v'lo b'nosechem? So it says, if the obligation extends to grandchildren as well, why does the Torah say your sons? Says the Gemara, very simple. It's telling me sons as opposed to daughters. So it's coming to exclude that there's no obligation to teach a daughter, but it's not coming to exclude grandchildren. Amar Rabbi Shua ben Levi, Kalamalamed is ben beno Torah, Mala alav akosov kilu kibla mehar Sinai. Anyone, even though he might not be obligated, anyone who teaches his grandson Torah, it's as if he is accepting it directly from Sinai. Shenemar v'hodatam levonecha v'levnei vonecha. V'samach lei yom asher amadata lefnei Hashem Elokecha b'choriv. So it says you shall teach it to your sons and your grandsons. And the end of that pasuk, the end of that verse, is what should you teach to them? The day you should tell them about the day that you stood before Hashem at Sinai. So you see that one who teaches his grandson Torah, it's as if he's accepting it directly from Sinai. Rav Chia bar Abba, Ashkechel Rabbi Shua ben Levi, the Shadi Disna Areshe, v'kamamti le'liyanuka lebei knishta. So Rav Chia saw that Rabbi Shua ben Levi would get dressed very hastily, right? He would get dressed very quickly and not even fully dressed. He would put on, like we mentioned earlier, a married man had a normal head covering that they would wear, and he would put on a shmata. He would put on some sort of rag on his head, not even fully dressed, in order to run and get his child to school on time, to get his kid to the Beis Knesset. So any parent knows what type of challenge that is, to get your kid to school on time, right? And he would run to do so. So Amar Le, he said to him, "My kuli ha? What's so important?" So he'll be a couple of minutes late. Amar Le mizuta ma'idechsev ahodatem lefanecha, right? V'samach le yom asher amadta lefnei Hashem Elokecha b'chorev. So mikan va'elach. So he said to him, "Is it small in your eyes? This that we're saying that one who teaches his grandson Torah, it's as if, or his son's Torah, it's as if he is accepting it directly from Sinai. So he's saying, I have an opportunity to accept the Torah from Sinai. Should I not rush to do so?" Right. So again, he's saying that clearly this is of great importance, and therefore he would rush to do so because it's as if he accepted the Torah from Sinai. Mikan va'elach, from that point forward, Rav Chia bar Abba, he took this to heart, and lo toim umtza adamakri liyanuka umosve. So he would not eat in the morning. Rashi says there was some sort of char-grilled meat, roasted meat that from the coals that they would eat in the morning, and he would not eat from this meat until he had taught his son Torah, until he had met his son, and he would teach him that which he had learned the day before, and he would teach him a new pasuk, a new verse for that day, for the present day. So he would not do so. He would not eat until he had fulfilled that mitzvah, right? Because he now accepted from Rabbi Shua ben Levi that this was akin to accepting the Torah at Sinai. Rabba bar Rav Huna lo toim umtza the Maisil Yanukal Beis Midrasha. So he likewise would not eat until he had brought his child to the Beis Medrash. Amar of Safra, Mishum of Yeshua ben Chananya. Rav Safra said in the name of Yeshua ben Chananya, "My dichsiv v'shinantam lefanecha." What does it mean that you should teach it to your children? Al tikre v'shinantam ela v'shilashtem. Don't read it as you should teach it exceedingly well. Rather, read it as v'shilashtem, and you shall divide it up into threes. The olam yishalish adam shnosav, shlish b'mikra, shlish b'mishnah, shlish b'talmud. The person should divide their years of their life into thirds. 1/3 learning Torah, learning the 5 books of the Torah. Another third learning Mishnah, and another third learning Talmud. Says the Gemara, a very simple question: Miyada kamachaye? Does a person know how long they're going to live that they can then divide it into thirds? Right? Person has no idea how long his life is going to be. Says the Gemara, lo tzricha liyomi. What he meant to say is that a person should divide their days of the week and spend a third of it learning Torah, a third of it learning Mishnah, a third of it learning Talmud. Lefikach nikru rishonim sofrim shayu sofrim kol osio shevat Torah. This is an interesting Gemara, unrelated to what it said before, that the Rishonim, the earlier generations, were known as sofrim. They were known as scribes. Why were they known as scribes? Because shayu sofrim, because they would count. The word sofer can also mean to count, like mispar is accounting, is a number. So they would count all the letters in the Torah. Shayu omrim vav de gachon chatzin shel osios shel sefer Torah. The vav that's in the word gachon, kol holech al gachon, which is any creature which crawls on its stomach, right, is not kosher and cannot be eaten. So the vav of that word gachon is the halfway mark in the Torah, in the halfway mark of the letters of the Torah. So it means they had a full accounting of how many letters there are in the Torah, and they knew exactly where the middle letter is, where the halfway point was. Dorosh darash. The words dorosh darash chetzion shel tevos. This is referring to the words dorosh darash is when Moshe discovered that Aaron and his sons, after the death of Nadav and Avihu, they had burnt rather than eating the korban that they had brought, they had burnt it. And Moshe sought out what happened to this korban. He thought they were supposed to eat it, and he now found that it was burnt. And he sought out what had happened to this korban, and that point, the words darash darash, is the halfway point of words in the Torah. So not letters, but words. I mean, they had a full accounting of how many words there are in the Torah as well. V'hiskalach shel psukim. The words v'hiskalach, which is referring to a metzora, that a metzora who has he has leprosy, so he has a mark on his skin. So part of his purification process is he shaves all the hair on his body. V'hiskalach v'sanesek yigaleach v'sanesek lo yigaleach. So he shaves, and that word v'hiskalach, that pasuk, is the halfway mark of psukim in the Torah. Yecharsemeno chazir miyar ayin diyar chetzion shel Tehillim. So this is a verse in chapter 80 of Tehillim, in capital Pei, chapter 80, and it says Yecharsemeno chazir miyar, the pig, or the wild pig from the forest. The wild pig shall come, and it will wreak havoc on. This is describing the destruction of the Beis Hamikdash. And we're likening the enemies of Klal Yisrael to a wild boar. And the letter ayin from the word miyar, from the forest, this wild boar, is chetzion shel Tehillim, is the halfway mark of the chapters of Tehillim. Of the letters of Tehillim. Okay, v'hu rachum yechaper avon chetzion de psukim. Okay, the words v'hu rachum yechaper avon v'lo yashchis, which we say very often, which is in chapter 78, which is in capital Ayin Ches. That is the halfway mark in psukim in Tehillim. Okay. Bayu Rav Yosef. Rav Yosef asked, "Vav de gachon mehai gisa or mehai gisa?" So Rav Yosef said he asked, this that you just told me that the letter Vav of the word Gachon is the halfway mark in the Torah, right? Which half is it on? Is it from the first half or from the second half? Okay. So he said to him, well, there's an easy solution. Let's bring a Sefer Torah and we'll count the letters and we'll see. So Milo Amar Rabba Bar Bachana Lo Zozu Misham Ache Eviu Sefer Torah Umanom. So Rabba Bar Bachana said that in fact they did not move, they did not budge from that place. Rashi says we don't know where this occurred until they brought a Sefer Torah and they in fact counted the letters. Amar Le, he said to him, Inu Beki Bechaseros V'Yiseros Anan Lo Beki Inam. So there are many places in the Torah where a word might be written with an extra letter or missing a letter, right? It's what we call a kriyuksiv. It's written one way, but we pronounce it a different way. Okay, so therefore he said, and how do we know how it should be written? How do we know the proper way to write it, with the extra letter or without the extra letter? There's a Masorah. It's a tradition that's handed down, right? Meaning if it's spelled properly, okay, so then we use our own discretion. We understand how to write it, right? But if there's a word that's supposed to be spelled differently, the only way to know that is through tradition, through Masorah. And he said we don't have the proper Masorah for knowing exactly which words are missing letters or have additional letters, and therefore we're not able to count the letters in the Torah and see whether Gachon is on one side or the other side, because our accounting might be off because it could be there's a word that's missing a letter or a word that has an extra letter, and that will throw off the count. Okay. Boyer of Yosef, v'hiskalach mehai gisa or mehai gisa. So a similar question. The pasuk v'hiskalach, right, is that from which we said is the middle pasuk in the Torah? Is that from side A or side B? Amalei Abaye psuke mias lesu limnuye psuke lesu limnuye. Okay, you might not know the exact counting of letters because you might not be you might not be knowledgeable in which words are missing letters or which words have extra letters, right? But at the very least, you should be able to count verses in the Torah. That you should know. So he said to him, even when it comes to verses, we're not absolutely sure. He said, we split up the following verse into 3 verses, right? So that means what some people count as 1 verse, they count as 3, which obviously would throw off the count significantly, right? So therefore, there's no way to know. Which pasuk is that? Vayomer Hashem Moshe, Hinei Anochi bo elecha ba'av ha'anan. That this was at the giving of the Torah at Sinai. Hashem said to Moshe, "I'm going to come to you in a thick cloud. Ba'avo yishma'u b'dabri imach, so that the people shall see that I speak to you. V'gam b'cha ya'aminu la'olam, and in you they will believe forever." Vayagid Moshe es divrei ha'amel Hashem, and Moshe gave over the words of the nation to Hashem. And in Eretz Yisrael, they divided it into 3 psukim. We have it as 1 pasuk, right? So that will significantly throw off the count. Okay. Tanu Rabbanan, we learned Chameshes alafim u'shmona meos u'shmonim u'shmona psukim have psuke Sefer Torah. So there are 5,888 psukim in the Torah. Yeser of Tehillim Shmona. Tehillim has exactly 8 more psukim than the Torah does. Chasam imenu divrei yamim Shmona. Divrei yamim has exactly 8 less. Okay. Tanu Rabbanan v'shinantam shehu divrei Torah mechudadim beficha shem yishalacha adam davar al tegamgem v'tomalo ala emor lo miyad. So v'shinantam levanecha comes from the word it should be sharp. You shall teach it in a way that is sharp to your children. What does that mean? That means that a person should immediately be able to answer. They should know their Torah so well that if someone poses a question to them, right, they should not have to pause to think about it. They should be able to immediately answer. Okay. Ella amor miyad, answer him immediately. Shenemar, as it says in the pasuk going on to 30b, amor lechachma achosiat, say to wisdom, you are my sister. This is a pasuk in Mishlei. And Rashi explains what it means is, just as a person is absolutely sure that his sister is forbidden to him in marriage, right? And that's not something that a person has to even think about. So too, every halacha in the Torah should be as clear to him as that halacha, and he should be immediately be able to provide an answer to someone who poses a question to him. Va'omer, and the pasuk says further, kashrim al etzbosecha, tie them, kashrim al etzbosecha, tie them around your fingers. Kasvim al luach libecha, write them on the writing board of your heart, meaning that they should be inscribed clearly in a person's consciousness, that they should be able to have the answers immediately. Va'omer, and it says kechitzim biyad gibor kein b'nei haneurim. And it says, like arrows in the hand of the hero, right, of the warrior, right? Kain b'nei haneurim. So too are the young scholars. Va'omer chitze gibor shenunim. The arrows of the warrior are sharp. Va'omer chitzecha shnunim amim tachtecha yipolu. It says your arrows are sharp. Nations shall be subjugated before you. Va'omer ashrei hagever Hashem mileis hashpaso mehem. That praiseworthy is the person who fills his quiver with these arrows. Lo yevoshu ki yidabers oivim bashoar. He will not be disgraced. He will not be embarrassed, humiliated when he speaks to his enemies at the gate. Mayas oivim bashoar. Amar of Chia bar Abba. So what does it refer to as enemies at the gate? So the Gemara says that here it's referring to enemies in Torah learning, right? Those who might dispute him in Torah learning. And he says, Rav Chia bar Abba says, "Afilu ha'avu bano v'harav v'talmido she'oskin b'Torah b'shar echad na'asim oivim ze'ezeh." So even a father and son who obviously have a strong bond of love between each other, when they learn Torah together, they become like enemies. Each one will take a specific side on an issue, and they won't budge from their opinion. They'll be like enemies. And same with a Rebbe and a student, right? But don't think that they're actually enemies, and God forbid this will lead to enmity between the two, right? But they will not budge from there until they become beloved companions. Shenemar as vohev besufa, and there will be love at the end. Al tikve besufa ela besofa, at the end, meaning at the end of the discussion. Right, don't think that their arguments are personal, God forbid, right, and it will lead to enmity and discord between them, right? But rather they're arguing about Torah, and that leads to tremendous love. Okay, we have another couple of minutes. Tana Rabbanan v'samtem, sam tam. So the Torah says v'samtem, you shall place the words of the Torah on a person. Sam tam. It is the Torah sam tam. It's referring to a whole, right? It's a whole and complete medicine, right? It's a medicine, a sam, right? A medicine that can be given to cure a person. What does that mean? Nimshal Torah kesam chaim. The Torah is considered an elixir of life, a medicine of life. Mashal adam shehikas beno maka gedola, that his son was severely wounded. And he placed a bandage on his wound. My son, as long as this bandage is on is over your wound, then you are able to eat as much as you'd like, drink as much as you'd like. You can bathe whether in hot water or cold water. You don't have to be in fear that you'll cause damage to the wound and you'll be further injured. But if you remove this bandage, then the wound will begin to fester, right? And you'll suffer from it. So meaning, as long as you have this bandage, then you're protected from other things, but from the wound. But if you take off the bandage, then you're going to be susceptible to illness. So similarly, HaKadosh Baruch Hu said to Klal Yisrael, "B'ni barasi yetzer hara, I created a yetzer hara, I created an evil inclination. Or barasi lo Torah tavlin, I created Torah, which is an antidote to the yetzer hara. V'im atem oskim b'Torah, ein atem nimsorim biyado. if you will, as long as you will, you'll be osik by Torah, as long as you will delve into the Torah, then you will not be handed over into the hands of the Yetzer Hara. Shenemar halom teitiv se'es. As long as you will do, this is HaKadosh Baruch Hu talking to Kayin and teitiv se'es. If you will act properly, you will be able to carry this burden. But if you're not going to delve, you're not going to be busy with the study of Torah, then you're going to be given over into the hands of the Yetzer Hara, that he stands at the doorway waiting to lead a person to sin. He's going to devote all his time and energy to causing you to sin. That his desire is towards you to lead you to sin. However, if you wish and you work on it, you are able to have command over him. You shall rule over him, over the Yetzer Hara. Okay, let's pause here for today.